Hello and welcome to the 52nd episode of Long Live Play, the #1 Australian PlayStation podcast, full of lukewarm takes and Khayl's mental breaks, hosted by myself, Govinda Whitehurst, and the Jim Ryan to my Herman Hulst, Mr. Khayl Adam. If you like what you hear, you can and should review us on Apple Podcasts or follow us on the Instagram and the Twitters at Long Live Pod. Link trees there to the other things. Have a look at that if you care. Otherwise, Khayl, wasn't that a blast from the past, huh?
Yeah, that fucking blew me away. Took me back to the summer of 2016. A happier time.
Was that when it was? I don't know what year we did that.
It was around then. That's
yeah, it was
sure.
a banger of an intro. I feel like I did a pretty good job with that one. Can you give me a pat on the back too, please?
You really threw me off because normally you ask me how you're going.
We're going to get there, but this is our 1 year special, Khayl. We've been doing this for 1 year now, which is astronomical to me that I've stuck with it this long, because usually I would have flaked out of this a long time ago, being like, where's the money though? Money, please. And it hasn't shown up yet. So this is a marvel.
Is this the biggest commitment you've ever made in your life? This
I did graduate from university. Did you?
I mean, like, I don't know that I've ever seen proof of that.
I can show you my certificate, I guess, diploma.
Yeah,
it's not a diploma, though. It's a bachelor's degree, so I don't want to call it a diploma, even though it kind of is.
I mean, you can show me that, and I can show you my local Officeworks branch.
Wait, what's that got to do with anything, dude? Mine's got a really good seal. The Chancellor of Queensland University of Technology signed my diploma, my degree.
Made up person, fake institution.
Sorry, I should have said the Donald Trump to my anyone else.
No,
introduce you. Yeah, just everything's fake. It's fake because I say it's fake, and that's the truth.
That's the damn truth. Can you please ask me how I'm going? Just those words.
No, dude, let's reminisce a little bit. We've been
doing I had a whole thing.
52
okay,
episodes.
All right,
we'll get there. Dude, just, you gotta slow down, dude. Just take a moment and appreciate the milestone that we've achieved with 52 episodes of a podcast that some people listen to.
It's Australia's #1 PlayStation podcast, Govinda.
Whoa.
Hosted by us.
Sorry, quick correction on that one. It is the #1 Australian PlayStation podcast.
What did I say?
God, you said the #1 PlayStation podcast in Australia.
Yeah, you're right. That's not us. That's certainly not us.
That's incorrect. That's definitely not us. We are top 5, I want to say, at best.
God, no.
I'm being conservative. And actually, not conservative. What's the opposite of conservative?
Liberal.
I'm reaching. What's your favorite episode that we've done, Khayl?
Of this show. It's funny because whether anyone knows this or not, I listen to every single episode. As soon as you've done your editing magic, I listen to it. Well,
usually you're like the quality control. And some people might have known this. I know for certain one person knows about this, but last week I fucked up the entire edit of the show.
And that's the first time that's ever happened, which is pretty wild.
No, surprisingly, a year in it. I'm happy with one fuck up in a year. But Khayl messaged me being like, hey, I don't know what's going on, but my audio is just a bit choppy towards the end. I don't know, like maybe it's my setup or something. And I was like, God fucking damn it. And I listened to it and I knew immediately that I'd fucked it. And I was very sad about it. And I was really mad. Like I couldn't talk to anyone for 30 minutes because I knew what I had to deal with when I was going home.
I think you have rage issues that need to be addressed. It's funny though, because speaking of your rage issues, I almost didn't tell you. Because in my mind, when I heard it, it was like, oh, my end's choppy. I've done something on my end. And if I tell Govinda this, he's going to be so furious at me.
No. I was furious. I wasn't furious at you. I was furious at myself. You just have to realize, though, that like you should know in the past that if there is something wrong on your end, you will know about it while I'm editing.
Oh, yeah. I know.
So if it gets to the point where you're listening to it from a podcast service and it's not good, I've fucked something up and you should definitely tell me.
Yeah, right. Well,
fortunately, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. It was just probably had to redo like 40 minutes of work, which is a little bit annoying for me.
That's a bit annoying.
But I got it done and I did it for you fuckers. So you better listen to it and you better fucking like it and go to fucking podcast app and you give me a fucking review. All right?
So it's getting real heated at the 1 year mark here.
So look, I'll take one fuck up in a year. That's a pretty good track record. I'm 1 for 51. You know what I mean? Or 51 for 1. Wait.
Yeah. That's
Shit.
like
51 out of 52. Yay.
You have a 2% fuck up rate.
Yeah. And I'll take that any day of the week.
That's pretty good.
Dude, that's better than like the failure rate on most products that you'll buy. So I'm feeling pretty good on that. And you're not even buying this. It's free. So go to
For now.
fucking podcast up and leave me a fucking review.
For now, it's free.
No, but Khayl, seriously, how you going?
Pregnant. And not just because of that fat beat you dropped earlier.
That didn't inseminate you?
Yeah, gladly not. Thankfully not. But I am physically pregnant. And I'm just going to let that sit there.
So let's just be clear with everyone. Khayl is actually a man, so not he himself is pregnant.
Biologically.
His household is pregnant, meaning his wife is actually pregnant, bearing the full burden of pregnancy alone, essentially.
She carries my true-born heir.
Yeah, I'm going to find it because I think the message that you sent me when you well, look, to be honest, I kind of knew about this a little bit earlier than most because I'm kind of special, so I just no big
sneak peek.
deal here.
While you're looking for that, I will just tell this anecdote. Someone I know, slightly older than me, actually pulled me up because I did say that. I said, Erin is pregnant, and they insisted, no, you are pregnant. You, as a married couple together, are pregnant. Don't put that on her. And so that's why I have to use those words, Govinda. Even if they're not quite correct, I do have to insist upon that.
See, I'm on the other side of that where I think that it takes away from what Erin is going to go through for 9 months, where you will just be kind of the punching bag alongside her. So I would still be like, you guys are having a baby, but Erin is pregnant. You know what I mean?
Yeah, look,
Now,
I get that. Physically, yeah. Physically.
I can't find this because I'm incompetent. So, I think I did it. Cool. So Khayl sends us his scan in a little group chat with me and his, I don't know, brother from another mother, Callum. And it says, the scan photo, and it says, this is my trueborn heir, the future god emperor of mankind. You will either serve them willingly or as slaves. Choose now. And then I replied, I love your inability to be serious in any situation.
I think
like
it's
the biggest announcement probably of your life, and then just nothing serious about it at all.
According to legend, Genghis Khan was born with a blood clot grasped in his infant finger the size of a walnut. Infant hand. Fuck. That's what I'm expecting. Like an earth-shaking, monumental birth of the kind this world has not seen for millennia. And I'm just giving you fair warning.
Better that
Fair
than
dues.
like a... Actually, no, I'm not going to say that. I'm sorry. I can't have some things recorded, otherwise it'll haunt me. So, congratulations again on the air. I'll give you the congratulations on that one. I just want to point something out, and actually, maybe not point it out, but just like inquire a little further. So it means you're like what, 13 weeks along now, right?
That's correct.
So when you told me there was 12 weeks, and I started counting like 6 months from there, which, funnily enough, is towards the end of October. What's the due date?
December.
Actually?
Yeah, it's not your birthday. It'll be close. No, wait, you're the end of October, aren't you?
Wait, is it actually December?
Yeah, the due date is currently the 5th
that does
of
make
December.
sense. I couldn't do math. Never mind. I was real bad at math.
Fair.
Yeah.
It's actually weirdly, there's a chance it could be my older brother's birthday, which would be really funny.
That would be awesome. Really steal his thunder.
It would be good.
And then what you could do is always forget his birthday in lieu of your child's. And be like, oh, sorry, it slipped my mind. It's my kid's birthday.
So, yes, on top of... This is all the news I've been sitting with. Nothing has happened in my life for the last 2 years, but all of a sudden it's house, baby locked in. I'm in my last week of my stable, great job, jumping to the wind to become a full-time video games journalist starting next week. And also, I have to fucking provide, Govinda. I have to step up. Society expects me to protect and nurture and guide, and all I want to do is train this child to defeat you. Because that's the thing, Govinda. We compete in this life. I'm thinking about what happens afterwards. I'm beginning to prepare my descendants for the eternal struggle against the Whitehurst clan.
The problem that you have now is, one, you've called it the eternal struggle, and we all know this planet is heading for its not so imminent demise, but it's happening, and it's not going to get fixed, most likely. Best bet is to move off this planet into the space, I like to call it. Some would call it just space. I like to call it the space. But who knows if that's going to happen. I'll be long gone by then. My hope is that my nieces will take care of me when I'm old. What are your thoughts?
If you put in... I mean, look, I love my uncle, but I'm not going to look after him. So, I don't know. Like, how much work are you doing for these nieces?
Well, look, they're pretty young still. One of them can actually have full conversations, which is pretty chill. And she seems to be she likes me a lot more lately, which has been pretty nice. Like, I showed up there the other day, and she, like, ran to the door and gave me a hug. And I was like, what?
Yeah,
Who are you? You're usually really kind of mean to me, so it's kind of nice.
What do you mean mean? I thought children were lovely all the time and let you sleep.
Oh, Khayl. Oh, sweet, sweet baby Khayl. You're in for a rude awakening.
Real talk. Do you think this is going to affect my ability to play video games all the time?
You've played games with both my brothers at the same time, right?
Yeah, it's certainly an adult experience when a child interrupts your war game to demand something.
Like, how often do you think? I'd say every 20 minutes they're leaving the PlayStation for some reason, or muting themselves and not unmuting because they were yelling at their kid for some reason. Yelling's a strong word. They're not yelling. They just sternly tell them to go to bed so they can play video games.
I just figured, look, I've played a lot of video games. Maybe it's time, you know?
Yeah,
I've had a good run. I've had a great run. It's been essentially 25 years of uninterrupted video game playing.
Well, look, Khayl, speaking of not playing games, let's go into what we've been playing. I'm going to just skip right over me as we usually do, and we'll continue this tradition forever and always. But I have also played no games, yet I have no children, and so it's kind of tricky for me to tell you why that's all happened. I don't really... I played nothing.
Do you have like a drug addiction you're not telling us all about? Like you just,
I wish,
after this
dude,
show,
that'd be sick.
you just pass out somewhere on a park bench for like 8 to 30 hours at a time?
This is my drug addiction.
It's
For everyone at home, I'm holding up a Monster Energy drink to Khayl. It's bad, too. It's a bad addiction. I don't like it.
You got to kick that thing. It's
No, it's not even an addiction. I do it once a week when we record a podcast, and that's it. And I feel like that's okay.
That's fair enough. I'm drinking like just whiskey on the rocks right now because it's 3 p.m. That's why.
Anyway, I've done nothing. I actually have done a bunch of stuff, and we don't need to talk about it because we've already spoken for so long. But I've literally played nothing. We played a bit of Destiny 2 because the new season came out, and it was kind of a little underwhelming for me personally. Without I'm just saying, but anyway, that's all I've played. Literally, I played some Hell Let Loose. Obviously, that goes.
We did, yeah. We played some. I still want to get back to Destiny. I just haven't this week. I've actually been playing a bit. So if that's all from G Daddy, maybe I could just.
Oh yeah, totally. We played Hell Let Loose a little bit. I played that Destiny with you. I've only played games with you. Just that's my thing, which is very strange. I had a busy weekend. It was busy, so I didn't have a chance. So anyway,
you just got to have no friends. That's my secret. Is you just eliminate all distractions.
No, the ultimate key is going to be I need to convince my girlfriend to buy a PS5 so she can have it at her house.
I didn't want to bring it up.
Stay there most of the time. I can just play it there.
I think this girlfriend's stopping your video game playing ability.
Well, for sure, for sure. The problem now is like I can't. Well, the two issues. No, let's not call them issues. That seems like a problematic.
It's a loaded
two things that are blocking my PlayStation playing right now is that work has been actually busy. So I literally yesterday I worked an 8.5-hour day just working.
I hate that.
And that really. Oh, actually, we did play Hell Let Loose, but I still continued working until 6 o'clock after that. And so that doesn't help. And then today I was working a lot as well, and I just was like, I'm not. And now we're recording a podcast, and so work and girlfriend all up means I play little game.
It's interesting. I've also been watching a shitload of TV, which is highly unusual for me, and yet I've managed to sink a lot of time into Catherine, Govinda. Catherine.
Interesting choice. I respect it. I do. I tried once, and the little mini game, the sleepy mini game thing that you do, I wasn't into it.
Yeah,
but how is it?
I love it. Like, again, I initially bounced off this because I was like, oh, that's right, this is a puzzle game. So, for the people at home, Catherine was developed by Atlas. This is obviously part of the team responsible for Persona, a subdivision. P-Team works on that game. And ironically, they're kind of more famous than the larger Shin Megami Tensei series. So it's an interesting situation. Sure. Catherine is, it's got that same style. It's it's in the timeline, it's after Persona 4 Golden, but before Persona 5. in terms of development. So it looks like Persona 5.
Yeah. I was like, you were confused. That was confusing when you were saying in terms of timeline. They are not. This is not related to Persona at all. It's its own entity, but it has similar qualities where it's like you have the world, the sim kind of aspect of it, where you're living in your world, and then you have the gameplay kind of side where you are playing the game.
It's like a puzzle game. It's like a brick moving. But the hard thing is like you can be Joker from Persona 5 in it, because they are so closely linked. Like, you can play as characters. You can be Teddy from Persona 4. Like,
wait, you can actually, because it came out years before Persona 5.
Sorry, I should say specifically, I'm playing Catherine Full Body, which is the re-release.
Oh, okay. You got some like DLC stuff in there.
Yeah, but it's awesome. Like, it's the same. It's what I want Persona 6 to be, which is adult Persona. Like, you play as a character, Vincent, who, you know, he drinks too much. He's at a point in his life. It's actually a really interesting time to be playing this. Like, his girlfriend, Catherine with a C, wants to get married. She thinks she's pregnant, and he fucks up, drinks too much, and wakes up next to a woman. Her name happens to be Catherine with a K. And it's like about him failing to commit. And so it's really interesting, like, now that I've made the biggest commitments life can possibly throw at you. It's like an interesting game, I have to say.
So I liked the sim side of it when I tried to play it. I liked that. That worked for me. But the bit that I just didn't click with was the puzzle game, which is like correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a long time, but it's like you're asleep. So when you're asleep, you dream, and it's the dream of like this. You got to climb a tower.
It's called the Tower of Babel.
That's constantly moving and shifting, correct?
So the tower is constantly, the lower levels are falling away, and you're trying to reach the top, which is
you got to race it almost. Yeah.
And the interesting part is, in this dream world, you are a sheep man. You're a man in his you're a Vincent in his underwear.
I knew there was a sheep involved in this.
Yes. You see, you have little horns. You see a bunch of other sheep also climbing. They are, this isn't a spoiler because you find this out immediately. Like, you're in a nightmare, and other people, other men specifically, who are unfaithful to their spouses, go to this dream world at night. And if they die in it, they die in real life. So it's like they're being punished for their sins or whatever. And there's like a whole overarching mystery that you slowly work your way through. It is interesting because it's a proper puzzle thing. Like, you need to move these blocks in specific ways. There's different kinds of blocks. But I've come to love it because as you get further, there's like these specific characters, and they teach you like tactics, like how to deal with like set blocks, and like there's different like moves you can do.
Yeah, maybe I just didn't give it enough time.
Oh, and the best part, so each night, this game, I believe it takes place over the course of 10 days in the expansion. I think it was 7 days originally, but so each night you go to the bar, hang out with Vincent's friends. When he goes to sleep, you go to this like dream world, and I think you need to get through 3 puzzles, and the third one has a boss. And they're really interesting because they have that incredible Persona 5 like boss design. It'll be like, the first one I think is literally Vincent's girlfriend, but as a massive demon, and she's climbing the tower behind you with like a big fucking fork, and she's like trying to stab you off. It's like legitimately stressful, and it can be like almost scary in a way because you were just being chased. And like you get to a point, you're like, how the fuck do I manipulate these blocks in such a way? It's
yeah. Look,
so
look, I'll never play it again, most likely. But I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Well, it sort of knocked me out of my funk. Like, it just got me for a few nights, and I think it's not a huge game. I think I'm like at day 4 right now. I probably only played for 3 hours. Like, it might be 10 hours long. I don't know. But really,
well, I was gonna say, if it's only 10 days, like you compared to Persona, which is a calendar year, it feels like it'd be a relatively short game.
I just like, I can see the potential here. Like, you hang out at the bars called the Stray Sheep, and like Vincent's friends are there. Like, it could be a setting for Persona 6, like where you are adults and you have jobs rather than going to school.
Yeah, it would be a nice change because I never really thought of that before, but you are always in the school routine. I feel like they do that because the school year
it's so regimented.
So you've got your days, you work, you're at school 6 days a week in Japan, which is that true? It's true, 6 days?
I don't know off the top of my head. Possibly.
Maybe
Sounds
5
right.
days. But then you've got your breaks in there as well, and then you go away on vacation during the breaks and all this shit. So I feel like you've got that structure with the school, so it might be hard for them to get away from it. But I'd almost settle for them to be in college.
Well, I mean, I think even an office job could work like that. Like you have your 5 days
that's
at
true.
work.
That's true.
There's like meetings. There's all kinds of things they could like break it up with, and like lunch breaks.
Because then
and-
you just have to come up with like the extracurriculars and stuff that you do. Because like you have to like, do you join the soccer team or you join the
Yeah, they could
basketball
figure
team,
that
you know?
out. That could be
anyway.
it's your book club or something. It's
Yeah.
So anyway, that's great. I actually plan to try and get through that this weekend. Like maybe knock it out. On top of that, I've been playing Phoenix Point, which is a very happy surprise for me, Govinda. Phoenix Point was designed by a man named Julian Gollop. Julian Gollop created the original XCOM. So this is almost like a fucking Indiana Jones Tomb Raider situation where Julian creates XCOM in the 90s. Firaxis resurrects it nearly 20 years later. That's the XCOM we all know and love today. This is Julian's like response to modern XCOM. It's like a more hardcore, quite frankly, much nerdier version of.
Did you find another spreadsheet simulator?
I did. I really did, and it's great. It actually like does some really interesting things. Like XCOM, you would aim at someone, you're given like a percentage chance to hit. In this, like, it's a huge difference. It's like you can't miss, but you can zoom in again like it's a first-person shooter and actually free aim. And as long as the reticle is on their body, you will hit. Like, you will hit.
Oh.
So cover is harder, if it makes sense. So, like, if there's literally a wall in front of them, from where you can see them, you can't hit them. There's no percent chance.
Do you have the option to zoom in? Like, you don't have to. You could do the regular thing like an XCOM and just take a shot with a percentage chance.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
no, but it still uses realistic line of sight. So, like, if there's a brick wall between you, you cannot hit them.
Was that not like that in XCOM? I thought XCOM, if you had hardcover, like full hardcover, you had 0% on it.
I want to say that, like, soft cover in XCOM, it's like there's a 25% chance you'll miss. Hardcover is like 50% chance you'll miss. It's just a flat rate.
Okay. Yep.
I don't know, and it does some cool shit. So it's like its setting is more Lovecraftian. That it's like creatures from the ocean are mutating and destroying the planet.
I'm looking at like images, not actually the things, but yeah, it definitely looks like that. Like, what does it remind me of? War of the Worlds?
Yes, a little bit of that.
Like
a little bit of that
shit. Yeah. Okay.
But the cool thing is, like, it's certainly lower budget, but it's more in depth. And I love that, like, as you play it, you basically start fighting like crabmen who just like run at you, and you've got guns, so you like fuck them up. But within like a month or two of playing, they start mutating and they start like developing tactics. So like eventually they'll develop like these crustacean shields, and they can just block all incoming fire from the front. So you need to flank them. And then eventually they start to incorporate guns into themselves. So like for ages, they can only like run at you or spit acid or something. And eventually you get to the point where they're like, have their version of a tank, but it's a fucking crab man with like, I don't know, attached Gatling guns and stuff. It's wild. But you can have vehicles too, which is another difference with XCOM. Like you can have armored transports and like they can fire weapons and things. And I don't know, it's great.
Nice.
It's I actually recommend you check it out via the magic of transferring. You might like it. If you liked XCOM.
Yeah, no, definitely. My concern is XCOM was too hardcore for me, and I think this is probably going to be as well. I'm the sort of person with XCOM where I'll turn permadeath off.
Yeah, this actually doesn't. It has permadeath, but it doesn't have Iron Man mode, which is like the true. That's where it saves after every action, so you can't reload.
True. No,
so
I would never have done that with XCOM either.
Well, you can just restart in this. Like if you lose your favorite character, you just restart the mission or something, or.
My biggest mistake always is naming the first character I have me.
Yeah, that does. That's something I've learnt not to do. But I will say, it's not all fun and games. Like, it's a bit finicky compared to XCOM. Like, inventory management is kind of a nightmare. It's not as streamlined as, like... Just that's where the budgetary issues show themselves, I think. Like, it's a little too finicky. I will say, though, fucking hell, it's got an official PS5 version. And it runs at 60. It's incredible. Like, XCOM 2 on PlayStation runs like dog shit. We talked about this last week. That's actually why I picked it up, because I found out this actually runs well. Like, it runs really smoothly and nicely.
I'll transfer it and not play it like everything else that I've got from you recently.
That's it. Look, we should move along. So, without any further ado, can I interest you in some quickfire news?
Now, before we move along, Khayl, I think it's important for the people to know that we've made changes again. No, nothing significant at all. Actually, very miniature, minute changes that honestly maybe aren't even worth mentioning. We've kind of gone back to an older format where quickfire is shorter and the news we care about is longer.
That is a fun growing thing. We've been learning this whole time.
We flip-flopped.
Yeah.
And so now what we're doing is we've got quickfire news, which is kind of quickfire. And the reason we chose it is because there's nothing to really read and tell you information about. It's just things that you should know going forward. The news we care about, we are actually incorporating articles from websites, and we will tell you what the website is and who wrote it. We're not reading all of the article, just probably the introduction mostly, but just enough to give you the information that you need. But this way you will learn who Liam Croft of Push Square is, because we'll read part of their writing on a weekly basis.
Which again, for anyone listening throughout this whole fucking year, we had, the feature of the week, which was like something I really liked that we used to do, where we would like highlight feature articles. And well, it turns out that there aren't a whole lot of feature articles written in a week, that was the issue we ran into that. It started getting pretty dry. So
there were some, but not ones that we necessarily cared about and wanted to talk about for a long period of time.
We were pushing towards the end, I think. Oh, and I suppose now is a perfectly great time to say that there is actually nothing special about this episode. It's just a normal episode, isn't it?
Well, I just you didn't even hear the intro when I did the intro. Dude.
Oh, sorry, Govinda.
Greatest throwback to most people won't even know what that throwback was, and we didn't even mention it too. And I like to keep it that way. You might think that that's going to be the intro song going forward, but let me tell you something: it isn't.
Can it be?
No, but Khayl, what we can do is we can do some quickfire news.
Govinda, Persona's 25th anniversary has come and gone, and guess what? We did not get the announcement of Persona 6.
Did we get anything?
We got some merch. There's some cool new merch available on the store.
You know what my running theory is now for Persona 6?
That it's not real.
No, they refuse to announce it until you've finished Persona 5.
I have played a couple of hours in the last fortnight, let's say. I've made a little more progress.
I didn't want to say it because I think people think I sound like I'm mad or I'm angry or grumpy or just mean, straight up mean. But it annoys me that you're almost finished Catherine out of nowhere, but Persona 5 is still unfinished.
And I probably consider Persona 5 one of my all-time favorite video games, and I haven't finished it. But I
can't give that to you.
But I have played it for more than 120 hours. So
true. Because you did the Persona 5, then you did Gold. Oh, not Golden. Royal.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But you haven't finished it. It makes me mad.
It makes me mad.
Again, let's reveal the curtain a little bit more. It's going to be one of our news articles for the week, but there is a PlayStation event happening tomorrow morning for us.
Yeah, it's really early in the morning.
So we're recording now. We're going to stop recording, and then we're going to record the rest of the episode tomorrow, and I'll stitch it all together. And you won't even know that it's happening. It'll just happen seamlessly. But originally, the plan for this episode was that we were going to go through our top 5 PS4, PS5 games of all time.
And we still might do that.
We still might do that at some point. I think it's a good idea, and I've got a list, too big of a list, but I'll have to cut it down. But I was going to set the caveat that you have to have finished the game.
That's an interesting caveat.
I think that's an important caveat. It's going to help me, trim down my list. And I think it's, again, this is an argument we can have at some point, but I think it's not disingenuous, it's the wrong word, but I just don't think it feels right to be saying a game is your favorite game of a generation without finishing it.
That is interesting. I suppose I disagree, but I understand your point. Like for me, I think overall my favorite video game of all time is probably still Final Fantasy VIII, a game which I have never beaten. And that's because I got it at such like an impressionable age. I loved it. I played it for hundreds of hours, but I could never finish it because I was so garbage. Just so
because
terrible.
you're a dum-dum.
And I think that's still valid because I was a kid. And yeah, I could go back and finish it now, but I almost don't want to. I like the mystique. I know how it ends. I've gotten right to the final boss. I just haven't finished
Not good enough, Khayl. Because here I am telling people that my favorite Final Fantasy ever is Final Fantasy X. And I have finished it, Khayl. I've gotten to the end of that game. And I can say that wholeheartedly because I have finished the game. And you can't say the same about Final Fantasy VIII. So I think I could accurately say, without a doubt, that I like Final Fantasy X more than you like Final Fantasy VIII.
I love that, like, in the middle of a quickfire Persona story, we've shifted gears entirely.
To Final Fantasy. Anyway, no, whatever. It's fine, dude. It's fine. Looking behind the curtain, we might do that at some point. We're not doing it now. Persona takes so long to make that I don't think we get one until 2025.
I don't think so. I think we're going to get one really soon. But sorry, just to just to finish that off, there was also details of a Persona concert, which is happening around the world in various places that are not Australia.
I don't care. I just want the game, but that's cool. I'm surprised we got nothing out of that. That seems like the perfect time to announce big stuff. So it gives me... It makes me cautious about the Final Fantasy VII anniversary coming up and getting any news that we hope for, because at best we might get a shirt.
These like legacy companies that make long-running JRPGs, like they really know how to disappoint you. It's a special
please
skill.
Be excited. Please be excited.
All right, Govinda, moving right along. Next up, we have some analysis on the PS PS1 performance, which is lacking. And as you are our resident tech expert, tell me what the difference between PAL and NTSC is. I'm putting you on the spot now.
PAL, I don't know what it stands for, but essentially we had PAL in Australia, and I think a lot of maybe Asia did as well. Our TV's refresh rates were 50 hertz. So games we were playing would be running at like 50 frames a second or 25 frames a second. NTSC was more the Americas, etc. They'd be running at 60 hertz, so they'd be getting 30 frames, 60 frames equivalents. For some reason, the PS1 games... I think I know the reason, but I don't know for sure. But for some reason, all the PS1 games that we're getting on the new PlayStation Plus premium service are running on the PAL versions of the games. So every TV now, every monitor, every TV, PC monitor, they're all running at 60 frame intervals. Like it'll all be 60 hertz, so it's a little less rigid like it used to be. So now you've got things that are running in 50 frames a second running on something that's meant to be at like 60, and it makes it look choppy. I don't know if that's the perfect technical analysis, but it's something along those lines. And then I think part of the reason that they chose the PAL versions was because there was usually more language options in the PAL version than the NTSC ones, but it still seems like a very weird choice in terms of performance. And it seems like PlayStation knows that the performance is a problem because they've released patches to try and resolve it, but it ends up causing like what people are calling ghosting and blurring, because they're trying to do like some background stuff that's merging frames together, and it's just not doing a very good job. So it seems like PS1 games are kind of garbage, and I don't know if it's all of them, but it seems like they're a bit meh.
I will say I didn't know that they will actually be running at 1440p on PS5. That's actually news.
Yeah, they
to
got
me.
Upscaled. Yeah.
It's very exciting.
Well,
although
it would be exciting if they were running not like choppy garbage. Some of them were reported to be looking like you're playing in slow motion.
That's hard. I ran into with the fucking Chrono Cross remaster from last month. Like, it's makes a game unplayable for me. Like, I just cannot deal with that anymore. Even if it's the best games from that generation, it's...
Yeah, and like the choppy frame rate's one thing, but then I saw images of the ghosting they were seeing, and like it doesn't look good at all. Digital Foundry does a really good video on it. Go have a look at it on their YouTube, where they go through the whole thing, but they are pretty disappointed in what they're getting.
I will say, I'll never forget, I had like a hot little PS1 retro moment where I was like, I discovered eBay, and I was like buying these games I never got, and they were so expensive, and I fucking got this game all the way from America, and I didn't know the difference between PAL or NTSC, and I learned that one the hard way, and I was just stuck with this. I managed to resell it, but I was so cut, because of course it took like a month to get here too, and it finally got here, and I put it in, and I was just like, just doesn't even recognize the disc. It was a gut punch.
Look, disappointing to say the least. Also, some more bad news for PlayStation Plus / Premium Deluxe Extra, whatever you want to call it, but trophy support is not ubiquitous for old games. It is an optional extra for developers if they so choose to add it.
Yeah, that's kind of upsetting, but I suppose it couldn't be any other way. It's not like, Sony could
I didn't think
enforce
Sony
it or something. Yeah, it's...
I was hoping Sony would do it, but it just seems like that's not something they will do.
And finally, Govinda, Sony found itself in a little bit of a scandal involving a discount situation. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really understand what this is all about.
Well, luckily, you've got me here who knows more and pays more attention. Let's just say this is a very Sony release for a Sony product. This reminds me of like the PS Vita release.
I understand they fucked up, but it's like the backtracking and the statements. I kind of lose track of the timeline of what...
Better they backtrack than not, I'd say. Because otherwise people are stuck with it and they'll be even more mad. That's why sometimes I'm like, okay, everyone needs to chill out, because they fucked something up and then they said, okay, it was a mistake and here we fixed it. And people are still giving them shit for backtracking. So I'm like, all right, come on, guys. pick your battles, right? They fucked up. They fixed it. Anyway, so essentially people were buying their PlayStation Plus in bulk. So you'd have like 3 years racked up and you bought it at a discount. When you would go to upgrade to PlayStation Plus Deluxe / Premium, it would then quote you the difference for the discount that you had, if that makes sense. So people would end up having to pay the upgrade cost plus reimburse PlayStation for the discount they got on their PlayStation Plus originally. And people weren't too stoked on that because they got a discount and all of a sudden they had to pay it back, and it felt like that was fucked. Since that was blowing up on, I'm just going to say only on Twitter, PlayStation released a statement that said, due to a technical error, players in Asia who have previously purchased PlayStation Plus memberships at a discount have been incorrectly charged for their upgrade pricing. This error has been fixed and impacted players will receive a credit. We thank you for your patience.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it?
So, look, there's not much there. Again, I just think some people just need to accept that mistakes happen and it got fixed and be happy that it got fixed, because there's some companies that just would have been like, yeah, pay for it.
We all pay for it, don't we?
Yeah, too much. Poor.
All right, Govinda, it's time for the news we care about. You can find links to each of these news stories in the description of this podcast. Our first story is the biggest of the week, and like just most, if not all of our stories, it comes to us via Push Square, written by Sammy Barker. Sony will host an anticipated State of Play live stream this week, but it's important to stress upfront what it's not. This is not a summer showcase to be compared with an E3 press conference, or even a major Nintendo Direct. Despite the similarities in format, we've seen enough State of Play presentations now to know that they're more like video extensions of the PlayStation blog, a curated collection of trailers and announcements, with a lot less of the gigaton shock and awe you've perhaps come to expect from PlayStation presentations in the past. This was a bit of a surprise, Govinda. We talked about it last week. State of Play is happening. For us, it's happening at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Yeah, and I will definitely be quote-unquote working.
We know that this is just going to focus on third-party games and PSVR 2. And yet, as always, people are expecting God of War release date announcements. Like, you go on Twitter, people just really need to... And I feel bad for Sony because they go out of their way to tell you what's happening, and yet people are going to be disappointed with this.
Well, because people assume that it's like let's trick them. We'll tell them that it's just PSVR and third party, and then bam, God of War, Last of Us remake, you know? But they never do. They never do that. They do exactly what they say they're going to do every time. So I would not expect anything from the first party at this point. I still hold out hope at some point we're going to get an actual like showcase event.
Yeah.
That's going to go for like an hour rather than these like 20 to 30 minute little state of plays that we're getting. But yeah, anyway.
I saw some speculation that this could sort of be a clearing of the dockets almost. Like this gets rid of all the smaller stuff. You get PSVR 2 and then, yeah, maybe we get a bigger first party show and they don't have to worry about, giving fucking showtime to littler games.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where like there's a few games where I'm like, I don't want to see anymore. Like I don't care. Like I'm at the point now with Forspoken where I'm like, I actually don't care anymore. I thought it was cool the first time, and the longer it goes on, the longer it takes, the more I hear, the less I care about it.
I will.
So don't show me that.
I'd put money on the fact that Forspoken is there tomorrow. I think they show it off again.
Oh, I think it will be for sure.
Yeah.
I think it will be for sure. I saw something today that talked about how it's using like ray tracing and ocular occlusion and fucking lighting, spatial, whatever. Like, who cares, It might look good, but will it be good? Who fucking knows? All I know, Khayl, is all I want to see is Final Fantasy 16. What are your thoughts?
I think that's a possibility. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see, like, some of the stuff we talked about in the NVIDIA leak. Like, I would love to see the Final Fantasy Tactics remaster. That's probably...
Oh, that would be sick, dude. I was actually thinking about that the other day. I was like, I would love a Final Fantasy Tactics.
I know. That actually might be like a Nintendo thing. I believe that was like the whatever the fuck it was, the War of the Lions that came out. Yeah.
That's the one I was thinking about. That was a good one.
That was on... that was on a Nintendo platform. I know that...
That was a 3DS game.
Yeah, like Final Fantasy Tactics was on PS1, but I think that might be more associated with Nintendo now. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, I just really want to see some Final Fantasy. I'm being really honest with you. Even Hogwarts Legacy, I don't... Like, I'm good. I get it. I get what it is. I'm probably going to buy it when it comes out, so I don't need to see more, but I feel like we'll see more of it. Now, something that I want to play that I've forgotten about until it's been kind of getting a bit of a push recently. The game Stray.
The cat game.
Where you're a little cat, where there's no people in the world, and you're a little cat and everyone's a robot. That game looks really interesting to me, and the cat's super cute, and I kind of want to play it.
Look, I'm on the record as being a pro-dog person, and I just have to own that. I used to be a cat person, but the reality is that cats are kind of trash animals. Like, they're trashy animals.
Okay, so real quickly, we're gonna sidetrack. We're gonna go on a little side tangent real quickly.
Good.
Why can't you be both? Because I like dogs and cats.
And yet you own neither.
Yeah, but Emily's got a cat, and it's a really cute cat, and it's really affectionate, and it loves being around you and near you, which I enjoy a lot.
I'm not even like one of those like dickish people that are like, oh, well, a cat's just gonna fucking eat your eyeballs if you die. Like, it's not even that. It's just that the dog is devoted to you, and it's just there's more utility to it. Like, you take it for a walk, you play with it, like, you'd snuggle with it.
Some people call that utility. Some people call that a burden.
No, it's just there's more to a dog. Whereas a cat,
You can snuggle a cat.
you can, but on its terms. Like, if it doesn't want to snuggle, it's not going to... Like, there's no situation where Leon doesn't want to be on me. He, like, just near me, around me. He wants to be near me. Like, right now, he wants to be in this room, but I've locked him outside.
Now, counterpoint. Cats are better to snuggle. They're not as, like, bony and rigid and, like, weird, and, like, they don't smell as bad more often than not. I feel like they're a better cuddle and a better lap animal than any dog.
Counterpoint is that the sausage dog's form is basically like a little, like a neck pillow. So you can really, he fits as a spoon, almost as good as a human being does. I
can't verify this. I've been in the presence myself. Counterpoint though, he's heavy because he's a little fat boy, and whether he's a small dog, he's heavy. Where eventually he's too hot and too heavy on me, and I'm like, you need to get off. Whereas a cat is always quite delicate, and they can still be warm enough to keep you warm, but they can sit there, and you can be here for 4 hours. It doesn't bother me.
I just need to tell you this anecdote, and I know we're going long and you hate it, but you've met my cat.
Oh, dude, I don't. This is going to be a late episode on Friday. I'm sorry, bro.
You've met my cat, Spencer, who is kind of an arsehole, but
unfortunately,
he's a long hair cat, and we regularly have situations where he will, like, poop. He'll get the poop caught in his butt fur, and because he's a fucking cat, he'll like try and climb things, and like just, you got to clean up everywhere he could possibly have been. And he's so vicious. We need to take like 3 of us to hold him down and cut the poop out of his butt fur. He's on like a ban list with the fucking vet. They need to sedate him because he's so vicious and wild. And that's my cat.
Let me throw a hypothesis at you, is that you're growing, I want to say dislike, but you're growing like disinterest in cats is coming from the fact that your cat is a piece of shit. Like, your cat's the worst cat ever. But if you had a really nice sick cat, like if you had Emily's cat, Cleo, you'd be like, oh, you're so good.
That's
like, you're so cute and you're so awesome.
I will say this, and my wife listens to this show closely, as we all know. She also appreciated your comment that she close listens, and she will closely listen to this.
Active listens. Active. You can't even remember what I said. Jesus, Khayl, I'm so disappointed in you.
I'm
active listening.
On the record as saying is, I think she broke this cat, her and her mother, because they had never had pets before. They get this new kitten, they're snuggling it. They're snuggling it too much. They wanted its attention too bad. And now it's like all broken. It like doesn't want to be near people or anything.
I actually think this is a thing, and we should do studies on it, but like our family's first cat was so antisocial, hated being
because everyone wanted it
picked up, and we also forced it upon her, and she hated it more because we were too needy. And so she was terrible, but our next 2 cats were the best. They were so good. You know what I mean? So I think it's maybe like, there's no beginner's luck with cats. You get one, you blow it. You completely ruin it mentally and physically. And then you get another one, you've learned a lot from the first one, and it's way better.
The problem, too, is they just live too long. Like, if you get a dud cat, you're stuck with that thing for like 18 years. And you just got to cop it.
Well, no, you can just put it in a box on the side of the road, right?
You could, Govinda. I couldn't. I love animals. I don't hate animals.
Sorry, look, this is going so fucking long. We have to move on, and we don't need to talk about State of Play anymore, because with the magic of fucking editing, you're going to hear exactly what happened in the State of Play later in this fucking episode. You're welcome. Next up, Khayl.
Next one comes to us from Liam Croft, also of Push Square. Reinforcing comments made in the past multiple times over, PlayStation boss Jim Ryan has once again explained how Sony isn't done with studio acquisitions in order to further expand its first-party portfolio. During the Q&A section of the company's recent business briefing section, Ryan said, quote, in terms of future M&A, that's mergers and acquisitions, activity, the answer to that is that we are not at all finished with our strategy of trying to grow PlayStation Studios inorganically, end quote. He then goes on to explain how inorganic growth will be required as Sony transitions from its traditional development strategy into one with a, quote, much wider market reach, end quote. Ryan is likely referencing PlayStation's efforts to port some of its back catalogue to PC, which meant Nix's was brought on board last year to help out. Sony is also exploring the mobile phone space, and roughly 20% of its output could be for smartphones by 2025.
In the same Q&A during that briefing, they also mentioned that PlayStation's investments into live services could be more than half of the company's investments by 2025, which is...
It's concerning, but I prefer to look on this in a more positive light. Like, yes, 50% of their investments could be into live service. Hopefully that will bear fruit. But I hope that the 30% of single-player games, first-party stuff we get, I hope that that benefits from the extra cash influx. Hopefully they will get.
That is true. And I guess partly, like, if they're going to be buying a bunch more studios, which it seems like they're totally planning to, maybe publishers, maybe studios, who knows, it seems like they're going to get it more in the first-party stable. It means that 50% of the stable is still going to be making those first-party games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or 30% of it, like, will still be the core 30% that we know and love, and then they'll have these other experiences that are going to be coming out as well.
I'm very happy with, like, I can't see, like, Sony stopping its focus on first-party and just going all in on live service or mobile. I mean, it's not like they're fucking Xbox or something.
Well, you also think about it, like, if they end up releasing Last of Us Factions, like, they will consider that a live service game.
Yeah.
It won't be... So, like, that, you're like, okay, well, I actually loved Last of Us multiplayer in the first Last of Us game, and so if they turn that into a live service game where I can play it kind of like I play Destiny, like, pop in and out every so-and-so, like, I'm down for that.
Yeah, I'm so interested about what happens there. Like, as it stood in its original release, it wasn't deep enough to justify that. Like, there wasn't enough there for it to be like a standalone Destiny situation. So we'll see.
I'll be really interested to see what they do, because if Naughty Dog, by all counts they are, but if Naughty Dog's making it, I can imagine they're going to do something kind of wild. Like, it's not going to be what you expect it to be, you know? Like, imagine if they just did like a Last of Us, like, mini open world, kind of like Destiny, where you can go around and do things PvE and then go into PvP matches against other factions. Like, that'd be so sick.
It would be cool. It's probably asking too much. But who knows? Like,
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. They probably, like... But imagine if they just, like, repurpose the kind of larger areas in The Last of Us for you to work in, you know? Like, I feel like they have the infrastructure in place. They could probably do it relatively easily. Because there are some pretty big areas there. You can maybe attach a few and extend them if you needed to. But, like, I think it's definitely doable.
I just wonder, like, because there's only so many, guns, you know? Like, it's not like they're going to introduce more weapons. Yeah. Like, there's just not...
What's the progression?
Yeah, like, there was progression, but it wasn't, like...
It'll be attachments, though. Like, it might be, like, for the factions, it could be much harder to get those attachments. So you have, like, the revolver, and you can get a new hand. You get, like, a couple new grips for it. And I think they could do something there where... Because you're not Joel. You're going to be just some random scrub, and you've got to go out on patrols, clear out clickers and whatever, and then come back in, cash in. They could do something really cool, I think. And I was thinking about it the other day where this could actually be a really cool live service game if they nail it. And I think Naughty Dog maybe doesn't have the pedigree in live service games to do that, but they also are very good at what they do. So who knows?
The flip side is, we haven't seen Naughty Dog really stumble, and I wonder if this could be it, because it's outside their wheelhouse finally.
Well, as a whole, we haven't seen them stumble, but I would dare say that, like, their multiplayer forays with Uncharted and The Last of Us haven't been hugely successful.
But none of them have been standalone, whereas this is meant to be...
Exactly. Well, look, if it's coming out with the remake, if it comes out with the remake, who fucking knows, Khayl? But anyway, speaking of first-party games...
Next one comes to us by Stephen Tailby, also of Push Square. The South Korean rating board strikes again, and this time it's one of the biggest games on the horizon. God of War Ragnarok is the next major first-party title from PlayStation Studios, and as far as we know, it's still on course to release sometime in 2022. Now, it's been awarded an age rating, which suggests that it could be true after all. Govinda, I just need this game to fucking shit or get off the pot. How many times have we talked about this?
I almost cut this article. I almost cut this because I'm like, I just don't... is it coming out? I hope so. Do we know that for sure? Absolutely not. Will it get delayed? Very possibly. Would I be surprised? Not at all.
South Korea at least is like it's a pretty good indicator that we're getting real close. Like this is, this is not like it's just been raided in fucking Denmark or something, dude. You know?
The flaky Denmark.
The Danes.
Look, yeah, okay. Well, if it comes out, it comes out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Look, I don't. This is one of those things where I would rather expect a delay and be pleasantly surprised than be like, yeah, it's definitely coming out this year, and then it get delayed and me be sad about it. So I still, okay. I think they can do it for sure. They seem pretty adamant about it. They've been talking about it for a long time that it's definitely coming out this year. That'd be awesome. But I'm not going to be disappointed if it gets delayed.
I'm almost setting myself up for a little bit of disappointment with this. Like, I know it's going to be good, but my reaction to Forbidden West, I think it's going to be a Forbidden West situation where, like, I don't know, it's hard to follow up a hit. Like, that sequelitis is a real thing. And, like, Forbidden West, for as much as, like, it was great, I haven't finished it. I have no interest to go back and finish it because it never grabbed me the same way the original game did. And I just weirdly have that fear with Ragnarok.
I said it to you once, and I'll say it to you again. Go back and listen to the episode where we first got Forbidden West. Because, I know you're like, it's hard to recapture that a second time, but Forbidden West is, without a question, a better game than Zero Dawn. Like, through and through, front to back.
I disagree when it comes to the story, which I would say is the most important part. Like, at no point... You know what? Like, someone pointed this out. I can't take credit for it, but Forbidden West, like, if you look at the marketing, you think it's going to take place in the Forbidden West, but you actually spend, like, 2/3 of the game rehashing the first game, where you're sort of just, like, in the desert and in the fucking mountains. Like, it's only at the very end that you get to the cool new jungle location that was in all the trailers. It's like, I don't know. It's hard to put into words. And I just think the world is... Again, I didn't finish it, and don't spoil it for me, or our beloved listeners, but it didn't blow me away the way the first game did.
Forbidden West does every single thing better than Zero Dawn, and I stand by that, including the story. I think the story in Zero Dawn, you summed it up yourself once, is that it's the only interesting part of that story is what happened to get to where they are, like in the past.
Yeah.
This game creates something interesting in the present, which I think is better long term. And I don't know, just some people thought it got way too sci-fi, and it gets very sci-fi, but it's very interesting what happens, and I think the way it ends, like, it's definitely set up for a sequel for sure, but it's to a point where I'm like, I want the sequel, you know? And I think you couldn't name one thing to me that Forbidden West doesn't do better than Zero Dawn. So in terms of sequelitis, I would go out and say that if Ragnarok can do the same thing that Forbidden West did to Zero Dawn, I'll be shocked and happy.
I'll just, like, to better sum up what I was saying, like, I think it's just, like, after you have the initial sense of discovery in one of these worlds, it's, like, a little bit harder the next time around, because that was the cool thing about Ragnarok. Like, I mean, because
it was the new thing.
Yeah, it's like we've seen the gods in God of War, and now they're going to bring in new gods, but, like, you kind of already know what you're in for. You're like, oh, we're going to get Thor now.
Yeah,
and that will be awesome, but we've already had Balder, and, like...
I know what you mean. And I get it, too, because that's also, like, Breath of the Wild 2 or whatever it's going to be called will come out at some point. But I already know I can push a log down a hill and over a cliff and walk across it.
Yeah, it's a little bit tougher.
And I already know I can eat these chili berries to warm up because I figured that in the first game.
If we had time, I'd love to drill down on chili berries, but let's move right along.
Well, I forget what they're called, but they're hot berries, dude. Shut up. Let's move right along.
Final story today comes to us from, you guessed it, Push Square, by Robert Ramsey. Hey, it's been a while since we had a big old Cyberpunk 2077 leak, hasn't it? If true, this latest blunder is a big one because it tells us loads of stuff about the game's first expansion, which is yet to be officially revealed. Apparently, data miners have managed to pull this information from a patch and subsequently leak it all online. As reported by VGC, the data includes hundreds of lines of dialogue from the aforementioned expansion, which basically outlines the whole thing. The DLC will supposedly be set in the existing Night City map, but will open up parts of Pacifica that were inaccessible during the main campaign. The first expansion taking place in and around Pacifica has actually been a rumor for ages, but this pretty much confirms it, again, if the data is the real deal. This game cannot catch a fucking break. That's Khayl again. That's not the article.
What do you mean?
I mean, just everything with this game, like the fucking bungled release, the bad press, and now this expansion that they've spent the last fucking God knows long, like pointing towards being like, look, it's going to be cool. We're going to fix it all. We're We just got to keep moving, and now it's out there. Like, I didn't do it, but you can look into this. You can see the storyline of it, like what's...
I actually, yeah, it's fair. I didn't even think about that. I just don't look at stuff like that, so to me, it doesn't feel like a big deal.
I wouldn't
I'm
do
like,
it to myself, no.
Or the only information that I have now is that it's in Pacifica. That's all I know now that I didn't know before. But I don't have an urge to play this game.
That's
which
the thing.
Is sad.
Because I keep thinking about it, and I'm like, oh no, we already got the PS5 version, and you know what? This game's still fucked on a fundamental level. Like, there's just something about the combat and the way you move through the city that I just cannot get. But like, it's fine, but it's not what I expected from this. It feels like a slightly souped up Fallout 4. Like, the shooting isn't great.
Which should be enough for me.
I just expect better because The Witcher 3. And they did it to themselves.
But that wasn't a shooter. They tried to do a shooter that they didn't know how to do in an engine that wasn't really equipped to do it.
I didn't ask them to do a shooter. They took that upon themselves.
It's interesting. Like, it's... Because I did start playing the PS5 version, and it was fine. My problem was... And it's always going to be the problem, is that, like, I put 20 hours into it, and then I started again, and I was like...
All right.
I've got to go do all this same fucking shit again. Like, all right, and then I do it, and I'm like, I just lose it. It just loses me.
We talked about it at the time. Like, I fired up the PS5 version as well, and there's just such a marked drop-off after the intro. Like, they clearly put so much effort into that intro with Jackie, and then after you get through that initial, like, what is basically the prologue, you get to the open world, and you're like, oh, right. Like, you're just getting berated by people on your phone as you drive around as cars clip.
Maybe I can do it. I don't know, dude. I'm just in this weird spot where there's nothing to play and there's nothing I want to play, and everything that I have I don't want to play. Like, I was Yakuza, I fell off it immediately again. I was playing. I was like, dude, why am I in another cutscene? Like, why are you still talking? Like, okay, so now I'm just rummaging under vending machines for money and collecting cans on a bike. And I went to look for a job. It was interesting, actually. I did do a little bit of that since we spoke last. So I don't know. I can't commit to anything. Maybe I need to play Catherine and with all my commitment.
Honestly, it's just so, like, I don't know. It shook things up for me, and now I'm kind of pumped. Like, I told you. Oh, we didn't even get to fucking rant about Crusader Kings 3. There's a new expansion on PC, which, for the record, means the PC version of a game that is now on PlayStation is 2 full expansions ahead. And I was telling you how fucking much that annoys me because I want to play it with you, but we need this content. It's so good. It adds much. It's like...
And I refuse to play it until I have at least one of these DLCs.
We'll be fine.
But I feel like I feel like the problem now is that we'll get the first DLC on console and you'll be like, but there's a second one out and I don't want to play.
The second one isn't as groundbreaking. It adds something really cool, but it's not. You need the Royal Court. The Royal Court is fucking essential, dude.
Well, look, Khayl, I'm gonna cut you off right there, and we're gonna move right into something that we haven't even recorded yet. But again, with the fucking magic that is editing, you're gonna hear us talk about the state of play that happened tomorrow, right now. And just like that, it is the future. That's what makes episode 52, our 1-year anniversary, so special. We just fucking traveled through time to cover the latest state of play by PlayStation.
It's incredible that we can do that our powers are so vast, so monumental that even time and space is no barrier.
I think we have ascended into godhood.
I've always said to you that I feel like a god.
I know, but feeling like one and being one are very different. And I think today we finally ascended. Bow down to us peasants and or be smote by my wrath.
Fucking hell. High level, Govinda, how did you feel about today's state of play?
High level, it was fine. Like, they didn't lie to us. It was no first party. It was all third party and VR. That's exactly what they promised, just like they always do. They promise something and they deliver the exact thing and no more. So anyone who was super hyped to see, like, Wolverine and God of War and shit, you were disappointed. But me, I've learnt as a longtime PlayStation fan to heavily temper my expectations.
Yes.
So I went in this like really not expecting a whole lot, and I guess by the end of it, I was like kind of pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I think for me, like, I will say this, like, while not everything was for me, everything here just was of such high quality. Like, even the games I didn't really care too much about, I was, like, looking at them and being like, holy shit, this, like, at least looks interesting.
Yeah, totally.
you know, like some of them are clearly PlayStation Plus bait, I think, and will ultimately end up there. But yeah, this is pretty solid all around.
Yeah, look, I'm down so far. And there's like, yeah, again, a lot of it wasn't for me, but I appreciate it nonetheless. And that kind of starts with the very first game that we saw, which was a Resident Evil 4 remake, which also was apparently going to have some PSVR 2 content that's in development now, coming March 24th, 2023, or so they say. How'd you feel about Resident Evil 4?
I love this. Resident Evil 4 is awesome. Like, I am very excited to see this remade. Like, this is Resident Evil as far as I'm concerned. Like, yeah, I'm fucking stoked.
Yeah, it looks really nice. Like, obviously, graphically, it looks very nice. They don't mention, I don't remember, maybe you do, but I didn't see any, like, PS4 information.
No, it's still on the RE engine, just like the previous two remakes, RE2 and
Did they specify
RE3.
it was going to PS4 and PS5?
Not that I saw this one.
Fingers crossed that PS4 is finally dead and in the ditch. It's about time. 2 years on, I think it's enough. But for me, Resident Evil's never really done it for me. Like, I've never been a big Resident Evil person. It looks really cool. I'm probably not going to play it, if I'm being really honest. And just like the other remakes they've done that I haven't played, and that's fine. But a lot of people will be super stoked for this.
Yeah, that's actually pretty interesting. I like the idea of Resident Evil games. Actually, I do. I mean, I do like them. I've played all of them.
Yeah, I was going to say,
so
you played
like
every
them.
single one. Like, me and you played 5 together co-op, but that was like a weird divergent game from the regular series of Resident Evil where you're in like Africa and the zombies are really fast and mutating and weird. Very actiony Resident Evil. And I think this is obviously seems to be more of like that classic horror, slow-paced jump scare Resident Evil kind of game.
Yeah, the true survival horror kind of experience. But I don't know, this looks cool, and it's like such a good setting, this one. I believe it's like somewhere in Spain.
The mood that they've got is really kind of ominous.
There are some interesting things that I wonder how they'll translate. Like in the original Resident Evil 4, there's like a mid-game boss, and I don't really know how to put this any other way, but there's like a little person who is sort of like adopted the persona of Napoleon Bonaparte, and he is like dressed, like has the cockade, as it's called, the hat.
The cockade.
Yes, and like it was such a weird early like PS2 GameCube kind of time, and I wonder how that's going to transform in this glorious 4K new engine. Like that character is just weird, and not like the way that, you know, like RE8, how there was what was his name, the Count, like the big guy that like makes all the food and like.
Yeah, sure. I've literally already forgotten that game.
He was like the good NPC that he like kind of helps you.
Oh yeah, the shop.
Yeah, the shop guy.
Yeah,
see, like that kind of works. This character is so bizarre that I just can't see it working. But who knows?
Now we're gonna go right off the bat with some controversial, lukewarm takes. Apparently, and I don't know if this is real or not, but we've gone back a little bit when you referred to them as a little person.
Okay.
Apparently, dwarf is acceptable because it is dwarfism.
Okay. Well, look, perhaps I should have cleared that before I foolishly.
But look, write in if that's wrong. That's just what I've been told.
I'd be glad to know.
I don't remember, but someone clear that up for us because hate tiptoeing around that sort of shit, you know.
I could believe that is an outdated term now.
I could believe it too, but it's still classified as dwarfism if that's the thing you've got, you know. So anyway,
All right.
more Resident Evil news came after, which was that Resident Evil 8 or Village is getting PSVR 2 support. Okay, again, more Resident Evil. I do. Okay.
Yeah, it's funny. This game kind of, in looking back, it really was like it just had moments of being good. There was a lot of like, I will never play this game again, and I would never play a Resident Evil game in VR. That's horrifying to me. That's
Too scary for me.
That's not what I want. Like, I can barely do this without VR.
A couple of things. Firstly, I think that Resident Evil Village was front-loaded with goodness. The front half of that game was sick, and then slowly it got worse as we progressed through it. That's how I remember it. But the other thing is, as we go through other PSVR games, the one thing I can't get away from is that the hands that you have in VR games are detached from arms. They're just floating hands, and I can't get away from it.
I mean, it kind of has to be that way, but I know it's very weird looking, and I don't love that either.
I don't love it. But anyway, so yeah, if you're interested, there's more Resident Evil stuff there. But for me, I don't really care. The one that did look interesting because it gave me a very Dead Island kind of vibe.
Sorry, just on that. Interesting to note, too, that everything from that RE8 VR2 is from that good first part of the game. Like, it's all the castle, and it's all the Dimitrescu. And, like, you look through it, and there's very, very little that isn't that good part of the game. So they're aware of it. They know what they're...
They know. And that was the same as all of the marketing for that game before it came out. You never saw anything after the fact. The last area in that game is arguably... maybe not even arguably, but the worst part of that game.
I don't know. The fucking whole fish bit was pretty garbage too.
Well, that's kind of the last bit, to be fair. But I guess you're right. It's not in the factory, so I guess
they're technically two different bosses. Yeah,
but they're the last two sections of the game, and it's easily the two worst. And it just seems like it really fell a bit flat towards the end. But again, speaking of scary VR stuff, seminal VR survival, The Walking Dead: Saints and Sinners, coming to PSVR. Looks like a sequel to... PSVR 2 looks like a PSVR sequel. Looks interesting. Looks very much like not The Walking Dead, the Dead Island, Dying Light kind of vibe.
Yeah, it's... VR. People loved the original. It is regarded as one of the better VR games. That's kind of my problem with VR is because I have very little experience with it, and that was the original PlayStation VR. I don't know. This kind of doesn't look... awesome. There's still that sort of huge downgrade in quality. This, I think it really shows here.
But I don't know if necessarily that's for just the hardware dealing with VR, or if it's just the game and the way it's made, just the style that they chose.
I think it's specifically the art style. It looks bad here. The next game we're gonna talk about looks fucking incredible, and it's in VR, and it's yeah.
And just to clear up, it's actually called The Walking Dead: Saints and Sinners Chapter 2 Retribution. Which is the sequel to Saints and Sinners on PSVR. Speaking of the next game that looks way better, No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
Or otherwise known as No Man's Sky is coming to PSVR 2. And this is pretty much the only reason I'll probably go back to this game is if I have a PSVR unit.
Yeah.
And this game. The problem I have with this game is that, similar to Resident Evil, but on the other end of it, they only show stuff late game where you've got all these tools and all this cool stuff and all these ships and all this stuff. The start of this game is really hard for me to get through. It's slow. I don't have anything. My inventory's tiny. I don't know how to get a bigger backpack. I wish I could just get dropped into late game No Man's Sky in VR rather than having to do all of that shit myself.
So after last week, I checked it out for a little while. I actually accidentally deleted it. I regret that now. I kind of want to go back. I needed to make room or something, but obviously wait for VR 2, but there are options. There are a creator mode, which drops you in with a lot of shit. You can jump straight into co-op. You can, for weirdos like me, there is the survival mode and the hardcore survival mode. This is not the game you and I played at launch. It's so... I believe even you start with an expanded inventory. It just felt like it wasn't as restricted.
I don't think you do. Because I was playing it since they released that big patch, which has escaped my mind.
There's been so many.
Well, they did that huge one, which was the relaunch and everything was better and whatever. And I tried to play it since then, and the inventory thing really bugged me. And I was like, what am I collecting? What mineral is this? How do I get this mineral? I need to build this thing. How do I find it was too much. But this co-op in VR
would be wild.
Could be pretty sick.
The trailer itself was incredible. Some of the... Yeah. Again, because I've never seen some of that stuff, where you have, weapons in your ship and you're
Yeah, you're actually shooting stuff.
Yeah, it's I don't know.
It's crazy. There's actually things to do in this game. It's wild.
I think the furthest I got playing last week, I made it to the second planet, and then those sentinel robots swarmed and murdered me, and I had no weapons, so...
But anyway, that looks pretty dope, and I could be down. PSVR 2 is interesting to me, and I said it before, and I'll say it again. The price point will be the defining factor. But to round out the PSVR 2 games, Horizon Call of the Mountain looks real good.
Yeah, it does. And actually, this is kind of what made me kind of lock in. I was like, shit, I do need to go back and beat Forbidden West for all the shit I've talked. Because I will get VR 2. I said that from, when we did our old podcast. I was like, I'm not going to get this VR, but I'll get the next one. And I think
Yeah,
it's
pretty
time.
much when they told me 4K screens in my eyes, then I was like, okay.
Yeah, I think
That'll
we're
do
there now. I think I'm ready
Yeah.
to jump on board.
That plus whatever the PS5 Pro eventually is going to be, like, get it in my body.
Yeah.
Let me escape this fucking godforsaken planet.
But this, it's sort of like a side story, but I believe Aloy will appear at some point. It's sort of doing its own thing.
You play as a character named Rias, who is a former Shadow Carja warrior, and you're trying to, like, redeem yourself by some threat to the Sundom. You got to figure out what it is. Classic Horizon style, like, something is threatening our way of life. Let's find out what it is. So I don't know if the story is going to do it, but it looks really nice.
Yeah, this was the one that really stuck out for me where I was like, why do you have to have those weird disembodied hands? It's like so awkward, but I guess that's just how it needs to be.
In Resident Evil Village VR, they showed one bit where whoever's playing awkwardly throws the gun from one hand to the other, and it's like, it's VR. I'm like, it looks bad. Like, it looked janky and clunky, but I get that we're early on in the VR world.
Can you answer me this? Like, are we at the point, I know you don't have heaps of experience either, but like, it does look like this is just an on-rails game. Like, can you just use your controller in VR? Like, can I just use the DualSense, I have it on my head, and I just interact with the sticks for some games? Does that...
No.
Why not?
What do you mean?
That's all I really want. Like, I couldn't care less about the motion control side of things.
For sure. Actually, that's a great thought, and I've never thought of that before. But I see what you're saying. Like, just play a first-person shooter, but you can see all around you.
Yeah.
I think the problem is the disconnect between aiming with the stick and your head moving to aim.
I think I guess I don't know, but
You know
in
what
my
I mean?
head.
Do you-
Yeah, but like if you just don't move your head and you just use the sticks,
Well, then what's the point of having a VR headset on?
total immersion.
So the only way in which I think you can use a controller and play VR successfully is a racing game.
Yeah, right. That makes sense.
Because you're not controlling the camera with the stick at all. You're just steering the car. But as soon as your stick is in charge of camera, it's going to confuse your brain. And I think you're going to get real weird and sick and weird vibes going on. You know what I mean?
Not me. I have an iron stomach.
You do not. But I am. That's one thing about VR that I'm concerned about. Because like what did I do? I went to do like a racing
boy. You are a queasy little
Not really.
man.
Typically not. Don't get motion sick very often, if ever. But I did do like a racing sim thing where you go into like, they put some goggles on you, but then you also sit in a car that like moves. And it got me. I literally was like, even they knew that you'd get motion sick. They're like, hey, we'll give you this stuff. It can stop motion sickness. We can also let you wear a band that will help reduce motion sickness too. I didn't take either of those two things. And then I got in there and was like, I've never felt worse. My body is in disarray and I'm shook. But anyway, yeah, I don't think that's possible. Rounding out the Horizon news, there is a big update for Horizon Forbidden West. It includes New Game Plus, new weapons inside New Game Plus. There's more endgame gear.
The one that got me is they're adding extra visual fidelity to performance mode, which was the reason I was like, okay, I think I do need to finish this game off now. Like
I saw the extra hard mode and I thought you'd maybe go for that, but I feel like the game's actually kind of hard already and you probably don't need that.
Yeah, no, and it's just not the kind of hard I like because it just makes the machines tougher and they do more damage to you.
How do you know that?
Because I've played around with the difficulties as it is. It's just like,
but maybe that's not extra hard, you know what I mean? Maybe extra hard's different.
I mean, I certainly hope so. The best one is where it increases the damage you do to an enemy, but also increases the damage they do to you. So you both do more damage.
I forget the name of it, but whatever Ghost of Tsushima does, where it's literally like one hit kills both sides.
Yeah,
like,
it's lethal.
Yeah.
Lethal
Lethal, that's
difficulty.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
Just the katana is absolute death, and that is all.
It's good shit. It's funny, this is something that's great for someone like me, who just fucked around and didn't beat this game, but this also kind of annoys me. Because you're like, cool, wish had that option for extra fidelity and performance mode from launch.
It's like that always, though. Like,
you're better off waiting.
The next game we're going to talk about is Marvel Spider-Man, and that was the exact same. Like, all of a sudden, you could have high frame rate and ray tracing. I'm like, well, fuck.
Yeah, I know. Man. It's like, all right, cool. Fuck me for
I think that's always the way it is. And we call it. Like, I called it with Forbidden West. I was like, this is only going to be better a year later.
Yeah, it's our fault for jumping on it.
That's it. Well, as I mentioned, Marvel Spider-Man was next on the docket, and it is getting a PC port. I believe Nixes is in charge of this PC port, the recently acquired PC porting house that Sony has picked up. And it looks like it's coming in August to PC if you have a PC and you want to play Spider-Man, I guess. But we are a PlayStation podcast and we play it on PlayStation.
Speak of that. This is, again, I told you, I'm like weirdly feeling the urge to actually go back and beat these exclusives that I missed. Like, it's like, honestly, it's Forbidden West, this, Miles Morales, and The Lost Legacy are the big PlayStation exclusives I've never beaten.
Ah. That's interesting. I just sneakily did Lost Legacy a little while ago, and it was a pretty good time. It's short too, which is nice.
That is, I think I actually got pretty far in it now that I'm thinking about it.
You probably did. Now, the one that I'm most excited for, and here it is. This is the big talking point, I'd say, out of this show.
It's funny because I actually like this the least, but continue.
Well, there's more so for the talking point itself, but the game is Stray. I've spoken about it before. You're a little cat, and there's a world, and it's full of robots, and you're just... It's like an action platformer, but you're a cat and you're a cute little cat, and it's called Stray. But they gave a release date for it, which is the 19th of July this year.
Oh, actually,
so very soon.
I overlooked that. That is very soon.
And the big news coming out of this is that it is going to be a day one PlayStation Plus game.
See, I thought they said they weren't doing that.
So they said first-party AAA games will not. But it looks like this is confirmation that they are going to do it with third-party games when possible. So, honestly, I wanted to play this, and I don't really want to spend full money on it. So it feels like this is going to be my first voyage into PlayStation Premium, where I'll probably just get a month worth, play Stray, and tap out. And I play Stray for $4.
Look, this does look great. I'll give you that. But I think I have too much Twitter brain. I've read just like a million people that just had the exact same take that you did, where it's like, it's a cute cat and there's robot people. I'm like, yeah, but what is the game? You're just like sort of platforming awkwardly as a fucking tabby. You know what I mean? If I wanted to do that, I'd just walk into my living room and follow my own cat around. He hates that.
Did you ever play the Unfinished Swan?
I never did. No.
Did you ever play Journey?
Yes.
Yeah, so both of those were made by Annapurna Games, who is also making Stray. So while it doesn't look like much on the surface, it could probably be real cool as you play through it, because those two games were really, really good.
Let's be honest, there's not a lot else happening in July, so I will definitely be playing this game.
That's it.
Fucking cat game.
And then this one was kind of interesting to me. PS4, PS5 horror game, The Callisto Protocol, dated for December 22. So a this year game. Super horror looking, very Dead Space vibes I got from it when I was watching it.
Very Dead Space.
And ironically, this game comes out 1 month before Dead Space is apparently meant to come out. What a sneaky little sneak they are, huh?
That is interesting. I'll play this. I think this looks great. It looks very scary, so I'll need my brave wife to help me through it. But I think I'll definitely be into this.
It was the bit in the trailer where he's up against a wall, like sliding past, and there's like a body hanging upside down in front of him, or maybe not upside down, but right in front of him, and he tries to get past it, and I was like, it's going to fucking open its eyes, isn't it?
The Last of Us did that.
Bam, it opens its eyes.
Yeah, The Last of Us did that shit all the time, and it's so upsetting. It's shocking to me that, like after Breath of the Wild, we got a bunch of games that were kind of like aping that. I'm surprised we didn't get more horror games trying to be Dead Space. Whereas this seems like the closest thing.
Yeah, totally. It's true. I would have expected more to have because it's like a Dead Space to me is like a BioShock game, right? Contained in one area, kind of by yourself.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff's happening.
Specifically that like super... I mean, actually, there's a good one. Like RE2 Remake kind of does this, honestly. It's like that super close in third-person view and you move slower. It's like you don't have the full mobility of a third-person action. So, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe
Resident Evil definitely does that for sure.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Did you say... Yeah, you did say that comes out in January.
Oh, no. This comes out in December. This comes out in December this year, and Dead Space is meant to be a January release as of right now, but whether that happens or not, we all know how it goes. Hey, just like this episode.
It's funny, though,
it'll probably get delayed.
we were talking about it, but suddenly that, like, holiday period, December to February, is pretty stacked now. There's some big games coming out. And we know it.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting because it's like, we complain that this year feels pretty empty, but I feel like as soon as we get to like November to March, it's going to be hectic.
I think I'd like to
really...
Maybe that's
really
something
hectic.
we can do in an episode is like kind of look at confirmed release dates for the rest of the year and...
Maybe we can, Khayl. Maybe we'll forget. Who fucking knows? The next year's going to be crazy, dude. Next up is a game called Rollerdrome. It's developed by Roll7, who made Oli Oli, if you ever played the little skatey game. It was first a mobile game, then came to consoles, and then there was Oli Oli World that came out not too long ago, if I remember correctly.
It's meant to be good. I never played it, but...
This game looks so weird, and I don't get it. It's like a cel-shaded, animated roller derby with guns / Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. That's the most I can get.
Yeah. This was kind of what I was thinking when I said that, like, even though it might not be for me, the quality of this, like the art design, is so top notch. Like, it looks incredible. I don't know how it'll play.
It looks incredible. It's from Oli Oli Studio, like Roll7, so I don't know if it's going to be very like story heavy. And I just don't. I guess the thing that was missing from that trailer for me was just any sort of context as to why the fuck you're in a skate park on roller skates.
Oh, they tell you that, dude. It's futuristic blood sport. Everyone loves it. Everyone watches it. It's the most number one show.
I guess if that, but that's my problem is if that's all it is, where it's arena battles in a thing. I wonder if it's multiplayer. I don't think they mentioned it. It just feels a little bit weird for me. But hey, who knows? It could be real good. And it does, like, the art style is very, very nice.
Another one. This one comes on the 16th of August, so very soon. And I don't know. This sort of screams PS Plus to me in a couple of months.
Yeah, I could see that. And I could see that possibly even being like a day one PS Plus Premium one. By the way, I feel like PS Plus Premium is the default name for the new PlayStation Plus service, even though there's other tiers.
I'm going to let you deal with this next one, Govinda, because this is the only one I actually didn't see. I caught up on these a bit later. I didn't watch the whole stream at the time. Somehow I missed Eternites, but Govinda, tell me about Eternites.
Think of like Devil May Cry meets a dating sim.
Oh yeah, like all those other video games that are like that.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. It's like a dating simulator with like a violent hack and slash kind of vibe. When I first saw the start of this trailer, when they played it on the State of Play, I was like, are you about to drop Persona 6 on me? Because I'm not ready for that mentally. I'd literally typed a message with PER to you, and then I realized it wasn't Persona 6, and I deleted it quickly.
Oh, look.
So the actual anime scenes they showed looked really cool and interesting, but I don't know if I necessarily care. So it is what it is. Have a look if you like it. I'm again, not necessarily for me, but I'm sure people will enjoy it. It is very much like a Persona vibe. Like you're doing your dating sim stuff outside, and then you go into dungeons and dungeon crawl.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, it's very interesting.
Next up, Khayl, we had a reveal that it took me a while to figure out what was going on in this because it was like rap music and like it was a very strange trailer, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is going to be a fighting game. But then I was like, wait a minute, why are they walking around the streets? Like,
yeah,
it almost looked like there was open world aspects, and it is for Street Fighter 6.
Yes, they've added a single player story mode, which is a first for this series.
Now, it almost looks like you're walking through the streets and then you get into battle, almost like a Pokemon game, and then it puts you into a 1v1 classic Street Fighter battle. And I gotta be honest, it looked fantastic.
Yeah, this is another perfect example. Like, this looks so damn good. The combat looks great too. Like, I've never been good at fighting games, but I do kind of enjoy playing them. I just don't really buy them. If that
Neither
makes
do
sense.
I. I was just going to say it. This is a classic, like, looks sick, but probably not for me kind of game. I just cannot get on board with fighters. I'm not good at them, and that's probably why. But it's also, I'm not going to dedicate the time to be good at them.
This, almost more than any other, this is like the fucking most hype trailer. Like, I actually got goosebumps when it finally built up to the bit and Ryu does the Sure You Can. I was like, that's actually great. It's so cool.
I don't know if it's just me or whatever, but Ryu looks like he's been doing some weights. He looked jacked, dude. It was wild.
We call him Jack Daddy.
But like Chun-Li's in there, you got all the faves, and it looks really good. I honestly, like, if this comes to PlayStation Plus at some point, I will probably just play it just to have a little look.
It'd be funny.
The story, like the single player campaign, interests me a little bit.
I've also never really played a fighter because I'm fucking forever ancient old. I don't know that I've really played a fighter like this online. Like you just go online and fight random people in it. Like that might be fun.
Oh, see, that's what I don't want to do. That's why I said the single player campaign interests me, is because I don't want to get my ass handed to me by a 12-year-old boy. You know what I mean?
But maybe you could hand the 12-year-old boy his ass and then
Maybe,
scream
but
at him.
I know of all gaming genres, this is one of my weakest. And I just don't think I've got that in me, right? But to do a single player campaign where I can put it on like medium measy, I'm gonna call it measy.
It's called games journalist mode, as the internet has named.
Oh, interesting. Like that's just how you get through games quick enough.
Yeah. No, it's just that games journalists are terrible at video games.
Oh, interesting. Nice play. But anyway, it's aiming for a 2023 release date, but no more information on that one. Like now I'm just looking at every game hoping it comes to PlayStation Premium.
They probably will. That's the thing.
PlayStation Plus Premium. That's oh, that'll be so sick.
On a long enough timeline, they all will.
Jesus Christ. We're going to have to move through this a little bit because we get into the indie territory and you are self-proclaimed indie hater. But PS4, PS5 in September, you can play Tunic. It looks a little bit like Monument Valley meets Transistor.
Yeah, I definitely got Transistor from this.
You know what I mean?
But it's also like very clearly Zelda too. Like it's got that
definitely
classic...
Zelda. That was one I was missing for sure. Classic little sword and shield, hack and slash, isometric kind of game. Honestly, it looks really nice. This was the game that I saw in this where I was like, fuck, I wish I had a Vita 2.
Yeah, it is funny too, because I think I thought this game was an Xbox exclusive. I have no idea why. Like whenever we last heard about it, I think I just thought Tunic was an Xbox game, but
maybe it was. I don't know. I didn't even think of that. I knew I'd heard of it before, but I don't think I thought of it that much. Moving right along from that into another indie. This one was the most perplexing of the entire show for me, called Season, A Letter to the Future. I don't really know how to explain this.
Just from what I'm reading here, Season, A Letter to the Future casts you as Estelle, a woman who leaves her home to explore the wider world before the titular season changes, which is a big event in this universe. So, like, think Game of Thrones, like, winter is coming. When the seasons change, something fucking... Again, this is another one where it's, like, not really for me, but it looks very high quality, and, like, it's probably going to have,
style's
like...
really interesting.
And the writing's really good, too. Like, I feel like it could have a, like, a fucking heartbreaking story or something. This is another one I'd probably play if I didn't have to pay
cheap
for it.
Or free. So I was pretty much live tweeting to Khayl as this stream went on, and I described this in my Fury, typing Fury as things were happening, as big glasses, on bicycle, nice art style, Miyazaki vibes.
Oh.
It did have real Miyazaki vibes. I was thinking
definitely,
as we were going
definitely.
through, kind of fantastical things going on and characters in there.
It was, it was pretty hard to get a grasp on what was actually happening in it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Walking simulator doesn't fit because you're on a bike.
Exactly.
Mostly.
That's what I was thinking. Is like, what am I doing in this? Like, what do I do? You know what I mean? The context was missing again.
Yeah, it's funny though, because it's like, what do you do in the Stanley Parable? You just kind of like move around and listen to things, and that's a game.
Yeah, but I guess you could talk about like the interaction with the narrator and how you are subverting your expectations constantly while you're making different decisions, and it's a lot of decision making. But anyway, we digress. And now, Khayl, because I'm obviously rushing through this as we are pushing this into the longest episode of Long Live Play that we've ever done in the history of the podcast.
And you are fucking
This is
welcome.
what we've all been waiting for, and this is alone... No, not true, but this is partially why this exceeded my expectations to some extent, but then also dashed them right at the very end. Final Fantasy 16 comes to PS5, summer of 23.
That's fine with me. What does that mean in terms of Americans and their seasons? Does that mean like
1 year from now?
I'm all right with that. That's basically, I wouldn't have really expected it before then.
Well, look, people were hinting at a potential 2022 release, end of 22 release. So I was hoping maybe an early 23 release. My problem is that they're probably going to delay it again. Like, not again, but they'll probably delay it once.
This is Square Enix we're talking about. Like, do you expect Remake Part 2 to come out first? I don't know if they're the same teams or what the structure is, but like, I would almost expect Remake Part 2 to come out at the start of next year, and then this to come out mid-year. But even that seems...
Doesn't it seem weird that we haven't heard a thing, not one thing about Part 2, but we've already seen 2 trailers for this? I feel like this is coming first.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say.
Maybe end of next year for Remake Part 2.
Even then, it's like, why would you release both of them so close?
Well, that's not too close. That's 6 months apart. If you drop it in November and this comes out in June, July.
I feel like each of these games could come out in their own year. They're both big games.
Yeah, well, that does not bode well for Remake Part 2 then.
A lot of thoughts. Most pressing. The main character's name is Clive, right? My grandpa's brother's name was Clive.
Okay, tell me more.
That's an old man name, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Clive.
Yeah, it's like a real name too, which is a bit odd.
It's very odd.
Because like Squall and Titus and stuff don't exist in names, right?
Yes.
One's just wind and one's just water.
Well, I mean, like a squall is a thing.
Well, it's like a wind. Right? Thing.
This is secretly the fucking trick to all Japanese names. Like Sora from Kingdom Hearts. I think that just means sun, doesn't it? Or
it does.
Or
yeah,
sky.
And
sky.
Yuna is just moon.
Yeah. Lightning is lightning.
Yeah, they really got lazy with Final Fantasy 13, just the whole game, including the character names. But anyway, give me real thoughts about this, because the name of the character is really not important.
I have no reason to be. This looks sick. Like, this looks like the mature Final Fantasy I always wanted. Like, this is kind of like what I loved about Final Fantasy VIII, is that it's kind of like a gritty kind of war story. Yeah. But this actually has, like, violence and blood, which most Final Fantasy games don't. So the positives are that it's Naoki Yoshida, who did Final Fantasy XIV and obviously MMO, but people fucking love that game, and they
eventually.
Yeah, but they hero worship him specifically. He saved that game. Like, he came in and turned everything around and turned it into what it is. So we're in good hands there. My concern is that I didn't see a party. This seems like a single character action RPG, and I don't know if that's what I want Final Fantasy to be. Like, at least Remake, you have people next to you doing barely nothing, but at least they're there. This looked like it was just
doing
you.
Things just badly.
What I gathered from the trailer is that you each are the summons. I can't remember what they're called in this. Like, the main character is Ifrit, and so he can become Ifrit when he's not in his human form. The girl, she becomes Shiva. You get the idea.
Yeah.
And that's cool, but at the same time, I hope you can have a party. I hope you actually do all fight together, because I would be disappointed if that's not the case.
So, yeah, look, I'm with you. Pros, I thought it looks amazing, looks fantastic. One thing that I'm super skeptical on is the battle system looks like I'm playing a fighter, like a Street Fighter game. It is two giant like health bars at the top of the screen.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Specifically, those seem to be like the summon battles from Final Fantasy X, like where you would fight the other summoners. That's what that looked like.
Which is like, I'm kind of stoked that they're integrating summons into the story a lot more, because that's something that 10 does really well, that I feel like sometimes they just add summons because they need to add summons into the games, you know what I mean? It's not a central part to the story. But I'm cautiously optimistic, but there was things about this that I was like, I don't know what I'm looking at, and why does it look like I'm playing Tekken with Ifrit and Shiva?
Yeah, it's an interesting... It's just going to be an interesting one. I'm very positive on it, though. I think this is going to be good. I just hope it's the concerns.
It comes together.
Yeah, I will say this again. The music stood out like a fucking
always,
just like something that stands out, and that's because it's composed by Masayoshi Soken, and now our Final Fantasy XIV fans will know that name. He did the music for that series, and that song that is going on, like with the fucking strings and everything, and the Gregorian chant where they're actually saying I can't remember what they're called. It's annoying me. Eidolons? Whatever the summons are in this one. But it's actually like chanting their names, like Bahamut, Ifrit, Shiva. I don't know how you pronounce it. I've always said Ifrit, but I believe it's actually Ifrit.
Ifrit is, I think, what he says in the trailer, but
fucking hell, it's so good.
Ifrit, just like I'm going to keep saying Bahamut.
Bahamut.
Instead of Bahamut.
Bahamut.
I don't know. But that was it, Khayl. That was the state of play for we're going to say the 3rd of June, because that's when it happened here. I don't know when it was for the rest of the world, because time zones are weird.
Australia just is the future. And
it is true. Games come out here first, and that's why we are the best, but that's also why we pay an extra $40 for our games.
Also, our government hates games, so they also get banned here first. So,
dude, I still want to play Hotline Miami 2, and I saw that it was on the list of PlayStation Plus games, but I just don't think we'll get it, and that makes me sad.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not meant to be as good as the first one.
That's fair, but I just it's more that I can't have it that makes me want it. You know what I mean?
I get it. But no, I think that was really good. It was better than I expected, and I kind of had, again, I had my expectations in check, and yeah, I had a great time. Yeah. I've got a lot to look forward to now. You know, even I think during this current episode, we were a bit doom and gloomy about the state of things, but I don't know. There is light at the end of the tunnel. We just need to fucking survive.
I don't even remember what we spoke about this episode.
I know.
So long ago, because we've moved into the future, dude. But it is going to be the longest episode we've ever done, almost certainly, because now we're at 40-ish minutes again, so...
Love that for you. Love that for your edit.
Don't get used to it, people. Do not get used to it, all right? Because this is not happening again. That tight hour is where I'm looking every single time. But this has been our 1 year special. If you didn't know, the intro song was from our first podcast called the PS podcast, which was a shit name.
It was an all right name. It was fun.
Look, it was to the point. It was to the point that I liked. It was really straightforward. You knew what we were talking about, maybe. But some would call it like a piece of shit podcast, you know, PS podcast. But anyway, it's been episode 52. I've been me. Khayl's still annoying.
Glorious.
Yeah. Gloriously annoying. That's what I'm going for.
Do we make it to year 2? I don't know.
Well, officially, if we do one next week, we will have made it to year 2.
I don't know that we get there.
We're already at year 2.
I don't know if we make it to next week.
Okay, stop bickering with me. Get the fuck out of here. Go ride your electric scooter. You'll hear more about that next week on the PS podcast. On Long Live Play. Goodbye.
Goodbye.